stress has been compounding since the pandemic began in 2020, especially for moms who had to bend their work schedules to accommodate childcare and also those feelings of isolation. Well, this stress can all build up and it can lead to mom rage. So I talked to Stanford School of Medicine professor, Dr. Greg Hammer, for a solution to this building anger. Dr. Hammer, I think through the pandemic and with everything that happened for moms, there was a real spotlight shown on what we call mom rage or the burnout. Explain a little bit about this for people who don't know.
Burnout is a phenomenon with emotional and physical fatigue showing up in response to chronic stress. When that stress lasts for more than a very short period of time, though, we're talking days, weeks, months, or in the case of the pandemic-related stress, years, it is really not good for us. There are a number of adverse physiologic consequences of having an increase in adrenaline and cortisol. Rage is really a manifestation of acute stress and often superimposed on chronic stress. And rage is simply the flooding of that adrenaline that occurs that sort of clouds our emotions and our ability to respond rationally. And so it's a stress-related phenomenon as well.
Can you get stuck in that stage of rage? Like, can that be ongoing?
Unfortunately, yes, because when you have that acute stress response, you can just kind of go down that road of self-fulfilling prophecy and sort of a positive feedback loop where stress begets a certain behavior. That behavior is associated with more epinephrine, and it just goes around and around, as many of us may have experienced at our worst in a discussion, shall we say, with a partner.
This is perfect. So we have a 7-month-old at home, and I feel like my husband and I have had the same conversation for 7 months. It's just been a very stressful time becoming parents. What do you see when parents are trying to figure out how to handle this new stress?
Well, I think sometimes, unfortunately, as we've alluded to, they get into this rage situation where an argument starts, both of them have an increase in their adrenaline, cortisol, blood sugar, other hormonal responses, and this just sort of gets to be a self-propagating thing where each side is defensive and upset and just completely stressed out, and then they sort of drive each other further, and the situation doesn't end well in many cases, at least for the short term. Hopefully it ends well in the longer term when they apologize and make up.
Yeah. I would love to get out of this cycle. What's the best way to do it?
Well, I think, having a daily practice of mindfulness, of course, as you know, I've written about my own approach that I practice and teach, which is called GAIN. And that simply starts with a brief contemplative meditation in the morning. Can be sitting comfortably in a chair, anywhere, hopefully where there's some quiet. We get up, we do our morning hygiene, we find a place to sit, we close our eyes, we gently get in touch with our breath, the deepening and wondrous elements of our breath, and then we actually direct our thoughts intentionally to that for which we're grateful. And no matter how bad things are, we have a lot for which to be grateful. We also then go to acceptance, where we acknowledge that there's pain in life, but that if we accept it, the suffering the pain causes can be greatly diminished. So we go through these thoughts, and then we move to the I in GAIN, which is intention, because our natural brain processes include ways of thinking that veil our happiness, let's say. We tend to have a negativity bias. We tend to be fixated on the past and future in ways that are maladaptive. So we have to be intentional about rewiring our brain. Then we move to the N in GAIN, which is non-judgment. We don't have to label everything and everyone and ourselves as good or bad. We can just accept what is without resisting and without judging. And I think when we learn to do that, we will become more present and happy. And that's the whole point of this exercise. And we return to our breath, slowly open our eyes, and we're ready to bring these principles into our daily life. But a daily practice is really how we learn, how we rewire our brains.
To learn more about Dr. Hammer's method, find his book, Gain Without Pain. It is everywhere that books are sold.